Hi, welcome to this edition of Talk with TAS. I'm your host, Dr. Teresa Smith, Dr. TAS, and today I have with me my friend Tina Siemens. Now, she does it all, and we've just been having so much fun offline, but she is an author, she's a historian, and she's a bridge builder in her community and really across the world. And so I've had Tina on before, but I wanted her to come back and talk with us because she's just celebrated a milestone. So, Tina, welcome to Talk with Taz.
Thank you so much. It does my heart good to see you and to be able to connect again. It's truly an honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, Tina, your story begins in a Mennonite village in Mexico, but your
Correct.
journey brought you to Texas, where you have authored three books, seminal, then of course your award-winning book, The Little Sandal That Could. Let me make sure I get in the right place. And then, of course, your latest book, which is Post O.
Right.
Now, what inner transformation helped you to turn your personal and ancestral hardship into purpose?
That's a great question. I just think that we can learn so much from looking into history. If we look into our ancestors or into history in general, a lot of people don't, you might be adopted, so you might not know your biological family history, but look into your area's history, look into your family's history, whatever dimension that family might have, look into your history. Somebody loved you enough to care for you and to bring you up in a world that just has so much to offer. It also has a lot of negativity, but from everything, whether it's positive or negative, we can learn lessons that apply in today. Things can happen 100 years back. And the circumstances that might be different or are different, but the lessons therein are the same, and we can glean from these lessons to propel us into the future.
I like that, Tina, because I believe, well, I think it's been said, and my mother and I have this discussion from time to time that everything that you need, every answer you need is in the Bible. And that's
Exactly.
basically what you said, you can always learn from those circumstances, but that's the way that you approach it,
Exactly.
and that's so important. So whether you know your family history or you're just going through and understanding the history of the community or the area or the state or the part of the
Exactly.
world that you were born and raised in, that helps to inform who you are. And I
Exactly.
like that way of looking at the world, because to me it sort of dovetails with you being a carrier of a message.
Yes.
Because all of us, if we approach it from that perspective, we got a message to carry. It's not just
Amen.
our
Yes.
bloodline message, it's our
Yes.
surrounding. It's a
Exactly.
message there. And
That's so
so,
true.
Tina, looking at that as like a dropping off point, what was the moment that you realized, or what was the realization that led you to say, we need a museum right here in West Texas?
Well, I had dreamt of having a museum, and I tried to cooperate or incorporate that into the existing museum that we have, but they were so landlocked that they couldn't expand.
Mhm.
And I was just, for 20 years, I dreamt of having a museum. And so I'd been going to estate sales, going to antique stores, just buying little things for antiques that would help tell my story. And so I was very intentional on gathering a few items, but always knew for sure that antiques in a museum that you just go and look at, that was not me. The stories behind those antiques that told my ancestral story, that told the state of Texas history, that told my community's history, that was my desire, to connect people and stories to the antiques that I purchased. But then, our friend Cyrus,
Yes.
Cyrus Webb, he gave me those words. And I began to pray, Lord, if it is your will that 2023 is the year that I can open the museum, then let me find a building. While I was on my knees, the Lord said, you already have it. Just start with what you got. And so in my head vision, I had that I needed 20 acres of land. I had this blueprint all drawn up of how my buildings were going to be. I wanted an outdoor theater. I wanted like a garden area, an outdoor big commercial kitchen where we would just cook and can and learn. But that all takes so much money, and I'm solo. This is me and my husband doing it on our own. And so then Cyrus said, if you are not invited to somebody else's table, then set your own and invite others to come. And those were the changing words that I said, okay, Lord, I am bringing this before you. I may not have those 20 acres. I may not have those buildings, but he gave me the confirmation that I could start with the buildings that I had. We had just moved out of this building, and it was about 6,000 square feet, and it was a home. It had the laundry room. It had the bedrooms. So I created the bedrooms, which were bedrooms. I created all the antique laundry stuff that was from years past, the old Ringer washing machine and the tubs and the washboards. I put all that in the laundry room. And then in the kitchen, I put the kitchen stuff. So I just set it up the way the rooms that were already designated as living quarters. And so now we've celebrated 2 years in, and it's just now beginning to get the foot traffic that I desire to have. And it's just such a blessing.
Tina, uh, there's so many takeaways from that, but I like the fact that God told you, use what you already have because you had it already. It's just that we have it in our mind how things are going to unfold, but it's already unfolded, but we just can't see it until we surrender all to Him. And then things just begin to fall into place. Like you said, the rooms were already designated. So you just put the items in the rooms that were already there for them. And I love the way you said, what, 6,000 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So Tina, you had the building.
I had the building, and it was standing empty at the time that I was saying this prayer because we had moved to the farm that we now live in. So this space has been so many things. It has been a day spa. It has been an office complex. It has been my home, and then it was where we just had gatherings there. Like I kind of rented it out, and so the building served many purposes. And now it's the West Texas Living Heritage Museum.
Tina, I like the fact that because basically you talked about if you don't know your biological family, then get to know your community, get to know the area. So really the West Texas Museum, I want to refer to it that way right now. When you think about it, it has all this history that have been waiting. To me, it's almost like a rosebud opening up that had been waiting to be utilized. And think about you getting the foot traffic because people know this building. As you said, it's been so many things. So all you got to say, oh, such and such, that's what it used to have. That's what people go have weddings. And it's like, that's its own advertisement. Now we're rebranding it as the West Texas Living Heritage Museum, but it's already in people's heart. So the name itself suggests something active, something personal and ongoing. What does living heritage mean to you and the people who visit the museum?
Well, I was very intentional on choosing that name. I had multiple names, and I let many of my friends see the different names and vote which one, and it all had the word living in it. So history is kept alive by the current generation. History is kept alive by you and me telling the stories of our history. And so I wanted the living part in there, not to just look back, but how can we live and be that history today? So this past weekend, I was speaking at a homeschooling conference, and my topic was passing on the baton to the next generation. So for me to be living in this generation and then passing on the baton to the next generation by talking about how did our ancestors, how did grandma and grandpa do the canning? How did they do the butchering? What did they do to make a living? And so that was the purpose behind having the word living in the title, so that we can learn from the past to propel us into the future.
I love that, Tina. And it makes so much sense because it's really your mission, it's your life's work. And that living heritage really reflects that. So now I know that you've celebrated anniversary.
Yes.
So what impact have you seen in your community, whether it's families reconnecting with their roots or visitors who are finding healing through sharing their history? What impact have you noticed?
Well, I'm just so thrilled. Like this morning, every Tuesday we have the farmers market, and I people followed me to the door with my keys, turning the lock. It was an hour before the museum was set to be open. I had people waiting by the front door as I unlocked and I was starting to give tours. I did not stop talking from 8 in the morning till 2:30 this afternoon. Constant visitors, and it was just such a blessing. Different cultures, they came in through and they say, oh, my grandma had this, and they will
Mhm.
start telling their story. And I feel so blessed to be in the moment where they start reminiscing when they see something that's familiar to them. It's attached to a good memory from their ancestors, whether it's grandpa or grandma, and they then share with me. And so we have this dialogue of what was in the past. And then I always can encourage them, how can we carry that on to your children and grandchildren? And that is how these stories are kept alive, is by, like God told the children of Israel, when you walk by the wayside, when you sit or when you lie down, talk to the next generation where I brought you out of. Well,
Yes.
Egypt was already history because they were now in the wilderness, and
Mhm.
God wanted them to tell the children and grandchildren. So that is what every human being has, a story,
Mhm.
and it's our obligation to share that story so that others can come alongside or connect with something in my story, and then new relationships are built because of it.
Tina, that is so powerful because, again, what I'm hearing is when the folks come together, everybody's sharing, and
Yes,
it's almost like we become one because
exactly.
we're just sharing our story. And it's like there's a little bit of my story that you recognize, and then
Yes,
so forth and so on. And so it's almost like weaving a blanket. I think about my
absolutely.
grandmother with those, I say weaving, I should say quilting, those
Uh-huh.
little square patches, and she would quilt, put together a quilt. And
Uh-huh.
it's almost like Joseph with the coat of many colors. There's so many
Exactly.
different stories that make up the wider Texas story. And you
Right.
get to bring it all together under the Living Heritage Museum.
Yeah.
But, Tina, I was thinking that you and I, we like talking about our culture and history and things of that nature. And but sometimes there may be people who may say, well, history just isn't for them. It's that was in the past. I don't know nothing about that. What would you say to someone who doesn't see that their story see their story represented in a place like this?
Well, I would encourage you, find one story that you remember your grandma or grandpa telling you, or your mom and dad telling you, or maybe an aunt. Find one story and really think through, what was the circumstances around that story? What made that story come to life? Or why do you remember that story? What impacted you about when you heard that story? What impacted, what sparked the interest that you remember it to today? And then you'll all of a sudden see you are remembering history.
History.
And because you are remembering that story, it impacted you in some way. And
Mhm.
now you are connecting yourself with that. And there you go. You've got a history lesson right in front of you, but it's the ball is in your court. what do you want to continue that telling the story for the lesson that impacted you? Do you want the next generation to know that this is what impacted me and my grandma and grandpa, or my mom and dad? Somebody. It doesn't have to be family member. It can be anybody in the world. You might have traveled, but that yesterday, everything that happened yesterday is today's history.
It's history. I love that, Tina, because people, we don't think about it, but yesterday it's the past, so it's history now.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So we
And I
all,
always, yeah, I always say there's only one day out of the whole year that we can do anything, and that's today. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here yet. We just have today to look into the past to prepare us for tomorrow. And that all happens today.
and
When
you
you
are so
look through
right.
our windshield, there's a purpose. The windshield is so much larger than the rear view mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward is always a wonderful thing, but we use the rear view mirror to look into the past, but our future is learn from it, but looking forward. What is ahead of me? How can I share? What impact can I make in somebody's life by looking in the rear view mirror and sharing what I learned from looking back there, but how can I apply it looking through the windshield, going forward?
Oh, that's a powerful analogy, Tina, because you're right. The windshield in the front of the vehicle is much larger because we're
Absolutely.
going towards that. The one in the back is smaller. So again, that smaller is representing history, but what can you learn from what you just passed as
Yeah,
you were traveling down the road? And
exactly.
it's such a good metaphor because we're traveling down the road of life. What
Absolutely.
can we learn?
Yeah, yeah.
Tina, um, I want to know, because you know how it is. I toy with whether I want to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it. Transformation is at the heart of your story, your life. You know, coming as an immigrant, you know, starting in a Mennonite village, coming to from Mexico to Texas. Transformation is everything that you do. Um, Can you share? Has there been a story where someone maybe came to the museum, a visitor, and they experienced that sort of shift? You know, it could have been emotionally, it could have been spiritually, you know, it could have been person just because they stepped into the Living Heritage Museum.
That's a great question. I'm I'm thinking of the couple that was at the door this morning. They said we came much later to this community, but because you were here before us, you paved the pathway so that like if you read Seminole, it's about how hard we had to work, how difficult it was to obtain the immigration. Now they came, and I came in 1977. They came in the 90s, and they
Mhm.
said, you already paved the path for us. But then I went and showed them the picture that I took, my book Seminole, to Georgia to give to President Jimmy Carter. And I told the president when I met him at the Maranatha Church, I said, this book is a thank you, not for me only, but for everyone that you gave through the stroke of your pen. You gave that opportunity for us to become American citizens, the pathway to citizenship. And this couple confirmed that today. They said, our children were part of that, and we were able to get sponsored by that, so they did not have to go through as many hardships as I did, but because we had been walking the pathway before them,
Mhm.
they are here now because somebody walked that journey before they did. And that is such a powerful thing. If we think that there's so much that needs to be and can be done, and it is true that there is. But I don't have to do what Dr. Taz has to do. God has given each one of us our own journey, our own pathway. So it's up to me to be faithful in that which the Lord has provided for me to do. But if I bury, like the story we read in the New Testament, the boss had traveled away, and he gave each one of his attendants an amount, and one of them just said, "Oh, the boss is so harsh.
Mhm.
I'll go bury it so that I
Yes.
won't experience his harsh." But the others took what they got and they doubled it. That
Yes.
is the choice that each one of us makes. Do I want to double what the Lord has entrusted me? Or am I going to bury my talent and my effort that I'm afraid of the outcome?
Mhm.
Because then we look only in the rearview mirror and we will never go forward. We'll always stay stuck looking back, and it's not a good place that you want to be.
Tina, it's not. And I thank you for that sermonette because you done preached the sermon there. I love the one, I love the scripture about the talent or the box, as you said. I love that. And you're right. I'm looking back when I buried it.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to keep what he gave to me
Yeah.
instead of looking in the future and multiplying it. And he
Yeah.
gave it to me to see what I was going to do with it.
Amen.
So if we covet what he gave to somebody else instead of working on what he gave me, we
Got it.
just like that one's tenant who buried it in the sand.
Yep. Yep. And what reward do we have then? We're not happy. And if
No.
I'm not happy, like the saying goes, if mama ain't happy, nobody happy. But if I am as a human being, as a creation of God, if I'm not doing my job, then I am leaving footprints for somebody that's following in my footprints that will get stuck where I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And that is not the goal. God says, be the light and the salt to this
Mm.
world.
Well, Tina, your story, the little sandals that could and Seminole, that's what you have done. And now, and of course, we post oak, but now here we are at the West Texas Living Heritage Museum. You are doing that every day. And I just applaud you. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to hear that. I'm going to call it a testimony from that couple because, sometimes we know we are making a difference, but to be able to hear it, because we're human beings, sometimes we need a little extrinsic motivation. But we got that internal motivation. But for you to, in other words, instead, no, you got some flowers this morning. You got
Absolutely.
some flowers that
Mhm.
said that the work that you have been doing all of these years, it's made a difference. And you said, Tina, that you had wanted a museum for at least 20 years, at
Yes.
least 20 years. But then you came in the 70s to the country. Those individuals came in the 90s.
Yes.
It may not be 20 years exactly. You see, I'm running the numbers here. But you
Yes.
see how that 20 keeps floating around.
Amen.
But they didn't forget, and they paid you flowers this morning because
Yeah.
you made a difference. Your family made a difference for so many people.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in North Carolina, Tina. So, as I told you before we got on, every time I see a post about what you're doing from the canning to the butchering, and I'm like, well, God, I can't get there. I'm like, well, why should be putting this up? I cannot come out there and participate. But, this
One day.
museum isn't just absolutely one day, and we'll go live while I'm there. This museum isn't just about observing, it's a movement.
It is.
How can our audience partner with you, support the mission, and even contribute, their own family stories if that's possible?
I would love to have them. If you are ever in the West Texas area, stop by. My number is on the website. My email is on the website. Get in touch with me somehow, and I'm open 3 days a week now. But I'm hoping that it'll get so busy that I'll be open every day. But right now, if you are here outside of the normal business hours, then give me a call and I'll come and give you a personal tour because I'm so eager to share my life story and hear your story. Because when we talk about our similarities instead of concentrating on our differences, we are all of a sudden, we're all brothers and sisters in the Lord. And that is what I want to continue sharing. If you have something that you want to share that I can post on my website, I would be honored to. Maybe you heard of a story or an immigration story. Let me know about it, because I want to hear. Your story matters, and I would be honored to hear your story, and just post that on my website and how things have gone for you in your life. So I would welcome that. That's a great idea.
I aim to please Tina with the Lord's help, because all
Amen.
greatness comes from Him.
Amen.
So all they have to do is go to the West Texas Living Heritage Museum.
Correct.
They can get all your contact information there. They can reach out to you. And I think you're so gracious, Tina, because I may be one of those people. I don't come on the days that you're actually open, but you'll say, okay, Tiles, you in Texas.
Okay.
Let me take you up to the museum. So I'm already putting that disclaimer out there. I'll probably come on the day where you're not having an event.
Oh,
Even
it
though I
would be
want
an
to be there
honor
for
to
a
have
reason.
you.
So, well, thank you so much, Tina. I
Oh,
always enjoy having you on Talk with TAS, and I wanted to share what you're doing in
thank
West
you.
Texas, because I think it's just so wonderful that you have taken your love of history and you're sharing it with the community. And I see all the posts that you make, and you're adding little bit by little bit.
Yes, yes.
And you got 6,000 square feet now, Tina.
That's right. That's right. We are adding. We're enclosing this patio for a classroom, and we're adding the conference room that was a conference room as the gift shop now. So I'm just opening up the doors as the Lord allows, and it's flowing. It's beautiful, and I can't wait to see what the Lord continues to do.
Well, Tina,
Yeah.
thank you so much again for being with me. And I can't wait to see what the Lord continues to do. Also, I'll have
Yeah.
to bring you back after you've done some additional work so that we can talk about it and share it with the audience. So,
Sounds
again,
great.
thank you so much for being with me today on Talk with Taz. And remember, before you go trying to take care of somebody else too,
Yeah.
I need you to take care of you, because you have been taking care of your community selfishly, and God has been blessing the community and blessing you. So thank you
Amen.
again. Bye
Thank
now.
you for having me. God's blessings
Bye
to you. Bye bye.
bye.